After my fiancée became my sister-in-law, I swept away 20 billion in assets from my biased father, leaving behind Jingbei, this place of heartbreak. At the same time, I posted a status on my moments. My fiancée has run off with my older brother. This young master is currently single, free to pursue. Attached was a photo showing off my abs that cost me hundreds of thousands of yuan to shoot. The next second, her best friend called me to interrogate. "Shen Boyu, you've got to be kidding me, right? Fang Shu is so handsome to that extent. Any woman who sees him would fall in love. Even I can't control myself. And yet, you dare let him enter a single phase." When she heard the news that I had left, Shen Boyu was driven completely mad with anger. She immediately ordered her assistant to check and see where I currently was. But the answer received back was, I had already gone abroad. "President Shen, with your status, you are not permitted to leave the country. At all." This time it looks like he really doesn't want to try anymore. Shen Boyu's pupils contracted, suddenly recalling that day at the club, the conversation between herself and her group of friends. Boyu just stepped out of luxury. Huh? That guy Fang Shu, usually wild like a little wolf cub, not giving a damn about anyone. How come? Whenever he's in front of you, he becomes so obedient and clingy. Watching it makes my own heart flutter. When do you plan to marry him? My footsteps paused, my heart thumping hard with absolute anticipation. However, what I heard instead was just playing around. Marry what? Her tone was incredibly casual. Those 3 words were uttered so lightly, but entering my ears they felt like 3 daggers, stabbing straight into my heart without missing by a millimeter. At the same time, inside the private room fell a deathly eerie silence. Clearly even her best friends were stunned by it. Not knowing how much time had passed, someone finally cautiously broke the quiet atmosphere. "No way, Sister Shen. It's already been 3 years. Is the shadow of that white moonlight still in your heart?" White moonlight. My brain went completely blank with a loud buzz. Shen Boyu has a white moonlight. I stood outside the door like a soulless corpse, dazed as I heard Shen Boyu give a slight and cold hum. When we broke up back then, he said to give him a period of 3 years. He would go try being with someone else, and also let me try dating someone else. If we still love each other, then we'll get back together. I've followed his wishes for 3 years now. I'm done trying. Saying this, she paused. It's also time for him to come back. I felt like I was struck by lightning, my entire body going completely cold, even my fingertips trembling. These 3 years of deep affection, countless moments where I thought we were soulmates, turned out to be just an experiment of hers with someone else. Then what about Fang Shu with his personality? If he found out... But before the words could finish, the heavy door of the private room was forcefully pushed open by me. Everyone inside was startled and terrified, simultaneously looking toward the door. I stood there, my face frighteningly pale. I stared intently at the person sitting in the main seat, who was exactly that woman. But she didn't show any sign of surprise or panic due to my sudden appearance. She still maintained that cold expression. If only she had a bit of affection for me, she wouldn't have had this kind of reaction right now. I walked up in front of her, looking closely at this face. "Shen Boyu, do you have nothing you want to say to me?" "There's nothing to say. It's exactly what you heard. We were just playing around. I thought you should have known that yourself. Shen Luoheng made a bet with you. As long as you courted me, the supercar in his garage would be yours. Shen Luoheng made a bet with you. As long as you can win me over, the supercars in his garage are yours. You can choose whatever you like if you think a supercar isn't enough." Saying that, she took out a black bank card from her coat pocket. She gently pushed it in front of me on the coffee table. "There's 100 million in here. Consider it your payment for the past 3 years. You were always there whenever I needed you. From now on, our relationship is completely over." Having said that, she stood up, preparing to leave. But the exact moment she brushed past me, I suddenly reached out and tightly grabbed her wrist. "Shen Boyu?" But I've already caught feelings. The words I said were me, thinking about all the little memories throughout the entire past 3 years. However, she shook her head, took out her phone, and put a text message in front of me. Those words hit me right in the eyes. "Boyu, it's been 3 years. I tried, but I still only love you. Let's get back together." At that moment, I felt my world completely collapse. Shen Boyu stared at the screen for a moment, then pried my fingers away one by one, fingers that were tightly clinging to her. "Sorry. I never caught feelings." Having said that without a single shred of regret, she turned around and walked away decisively. She said she never caught feelings. It turned out that for the past 3 years, I was the only one acting like a fool, in a play, directed by her herself, yet pouring all of my sincere affection into it. I stood frozen in place, looking at my empty hand. The next second, I suddenly grabbed the expensive imported liquor bottle on the coffee table and smashed it hard against the floor. Everyone in the private room was scared stiff, nobody daring to step forward to stop me. Not knowing how much time had passed, I walked out of the club, dark wind blowing past, making my face feel completely freezing. I hastily wiped away my tears, hailed a taxi, and followed the Maybach ahead. I had to see with my own eyes the guy she had been longing for over the past 3 years, who exactly that white moonlight was, whom even I couldn't compare to. The driver saw that my state wasn't right, so he didn't dare ask too much, stepping on the gas to chase after it. However, Shen Boyu, who was always calm and self-controlled driving extremely steadily, was driving much faster right now. Seeing this, my heart tightened with pain once again. Is she that anxious to go meet her white moonlight? The car finally stopped at the arrivals hall of the international airport. I paid the fare, staggered out of the car, followed her, and hid behind a pillar. I saw Shen Boyu standing at the exit gates. After that, a man pulling a suitcase walked out. When I saw that man's face, once again I felt like I was struck by lightning. Not just because when Shen Boyu ran over crying, he opened his arms wide to welcome her and leaned down to kiss her hair, but also because that white moonlight turned out to be Fang Zun, my nominal older brother, the person I loathed the most in my entire life, the person I never wanted to have anything to do with. That year, my mother passed away in a traffic accident. Less than half a year later, father brought a woman home. That woman also brought along a son, who was 3 years older than me, and that was Fang Zun. Father explained that that woman was his first love, and Fang Zun was his biological son. If my mother hadn't used her family's power back then to force him, he wouldn't have broken up with his first love while she was pregnant. But I understood the truth better than anyone. Back then, father was starting a business and needed capital, driven to a dead end where he didn't even have food to eat. It was he who actively approached my mother, who had pursued him for a long time, promising that as long as my maternal family invested, he would marry her. Mother put her family's money on the line for him, giving him all her love. And even in a subsequent accident, she sacrificed her own life to push father out of the way. And what was the result? My mother's bones weren't even cold yet. When my father turned his back, using my mother's very dowry and inheritance, her assets to use as a betrothal gift, to bring that so-called first love back in a grand, lavish way. Shen Boyu, you can like whoever you want, but why does it always have to be Fang Zun? While I was still in a daze, Shen Boyu had already taken the luggage from Fang Zun's hands and walked toward the parking lot. Like someone possessed by ghosts and led by demons, I hailed another car to continue following them, because we were tailing them very closely. Through the car window, I could clearly see everything in the car ahead. Shen Boyu tilted her head, gently saying something to Fang Zun. She even reached her hand out, in an incredibly natural manner, to tuck the stray hairs behind his ear. This attentiveness was something that in the entire 3 years I spent with her I had never received even once. Right as I was staring intently ahead, my vision gradually blurring with tears, an unexpected accident suddenly occurred at the intersection ahead. A series of ear-piercing brake screeches and consecutive crash sounds echoed. The taxi I was sitting in didn't have time to react and slammed hard into the rear of the car ahead, and immediately after it was violently rear-ended by the car behind. A terrifying impact hit. I only felt my forehead slam hard against the back of the front seat. An intense pain surged as blood instantly streamed down, blurring my vision. Amid the screams and chaos through the shattered car window, I saw that familiar Maybach ahead. The car door opened and Shen Boyu was the first to get out. She quickly walked around to the passenger seat and carefully helped Fang Zun out from inside. Shen Boyu supported him, checking his injuries. Her brows knit tightly, her face full of distress. Finally, she supported Fang Zun and turned around, intending to leave the accident scene. But the exact moment she turned away, she and I, who was trapped in the back seat of the distorted, taxi-locked eyes. I saw the shock in those eyes, but it vanished in a mere blink. Fang Zun seemed to notice her hesitation and silence. What's wrong? Did you see someone you know? I'm fine. If it's an acquaintance, go ahead and check on them. I heard a taxi got hit pretty badly. After a few seconds of silence, Shen Boyu withdrew her gaze. There are no acquaintances. They're all irrelevant people. Having said that, she helped Fang Zun up, not even turning her head back as she left the chaotic scene of this accident. When I woke up again, I was already in the hospital. The nurse was adjusting the IV drip on the back of my hand. Seeing me wake up, she reminded me, Mr. Fang, you're finally awake. Your injuries aren't light. You need to be hospitalized for observation. You also need to contact your family to pay the hospital fees. But my gaze was completely blank, without any reaction at all. The nurse repeated once more, Mr. Fang. Right at that moment, a familiar voice rang out. I've already paid the hospital fees. I abruptly turned my head and saw Shen Boyu standing right at the door of the ward. Seeing this, the nurse knowingly left the room. Shen Boyu walked in, her gaze sweeping over my bandaged wounds. Then she reached out, seemingly wanting to touch my forehead. I tilted my head away to avoid her. President Shen is busy with 1,000 things. Why come to take care of an irrelevant person? Shen Boyu's movement froze. If I didn't come, is there anyone else who would come for you? Those words were right. Who else do I even have? My biological father is biased. My stepmother is fake. And that house has long ceased to be my home. For the past 3 years, it was you, Shen Boyu, who time after time showed up when I needed you most, making me used to relying on you, making me mistakenly believe I had found a safe harbor. But now, the person who personally pushed me into the abyss is also you. Even if nobody comes, it's none of your business. You said it yourself, didn't you? We're completely finished. President Shen, I'm not that cheap. You said you don't like me. So would I still shamelessly cling to you? I took a deep breath, trying hard to preserve my last shred of pride. You didn't actually think those words about catching feelings before were true, did you? I was just playing around. Both sides were just a casual fling, and besides, Shen Boyu, your acting is truly top tier. Shen Boyu looked at me trying to act fierce, while my eyes were completely red, her brows knit slightly. She was about to say something, but right at that moment, a nurse hurriedly pushed the door open and entered. Miss Shen, over on Mr. Fang Zun's side, the checkup is finished. He keeps looking for you. Hearing this sentence, I instantly became like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Fine, go be with your white moonlight then. I don't need you here. Shen Boyu looked at me in silence for a few seconds. Finally, she opened her mouth. I came here to take care of you for no other reason. You're Shen Loheng's friend. He asked me to keep an eye on you. Up until this very moment, I finally couldn't help but burst out laughing. Even though this laugh aggravated my injuries, that physical pain was nothing, compared to a 10,000th of the pain in my heart. President Shen, rest assured I'm not that delusional. At this moment, Shen Boyu's heart tightened slightly. This was the first time she had seen me shed tears. She opened her mouth slightly, seeming to want to say something, but in the end, no words were uttered, and she turned around to follow the nurse out of the ward. Looking at her decisively departing back, I finally couldn't hold it together anymore, and collapsed onto the hospital bed. I thought I would cry for a very long time, but strangely enough, my tears dried up very quickly. In the days that followed, I took care of myself alone in the hospital. When changing the dressings, it hurt so much that cold sweat poured down, and when eating, my stomach twisted in pain, chewing and swallowing like cardboard. Occasionally, I would hear the nurses whispering and gossiping out in the hallway. They said that Mr. Fang Zun in the VIP room next door was truly blessed. Miss Shen took care of him down to the smallest detail, personally feeding him food and water, and staying by his side all night long. There was one time I walked past that room. Through the half-closed door, I saw Shen Boyu sitting by the bed peeling an apple. That scene burned into my pupils, hurting so much that my vision went black. But I didn't cry. The greatest merit of me, Fang Shu, is that if I dare to love, I also dare to let go. After being discharged from the hospital, the first thing I did was apply for a visa. This city, I didn't want to stay in for another single second. After finishing the visa application, I went back home. As soon as I walked into the door, I ran straight into my heavily made-up stepmother. The moment she saw me, she started lecturing me out of habit. Fang Shu, you actually still know how to come back. I didn't even bother to give her a single glance, directly grabbing the half-person tall blue and white porcelain vase right at the entryway and smashing it hard against the floor. 376. With a loud crash, the fragments shattered everywhere. With a loud boom, debris sent flying everywhere. Langwan shrieked in terror, backing up 2 steps. What kind of trash do you think you are? A third wheel who ruined someone else's family, and you're worthy of lecturing me. Mark my words, as long as I, Fang Shu, am still in this house day by day, don't you ever think about lifting your head up in life again. My sharp response made Langwan's face turn dead white, her entire body trembling. Fang Shu, what kind of madness are you throwing again? Fang Minhong rushed out from the study, hurriedly supporting the unsteady Langwan, then glared at me with absolute rage. The moment you get back, you cause such a scene that turns the house upside down. Can't you be a bit more sensible? I looked at the way my father was protecting that woman and gave a cold laugh. I cause a scene that turns the house upside down, huh? Fine. As long as you divide my share of the assets first, I will go abroad, and I will never come back to bother you in the future. Fang Minhong froze for a moment, after which his face put on a display of fake concern. Insolent, going abroad. What are you going out there for? Stay here, this place will forever be your home. We are a family. I felt like I had just heard the biggest joke in the world. Stop acting, Fang Minhong. You, her, and Fang Zun. You guys are the real family. My mother is dead, so I no longer have a home. Just give me a price straight up. I want the share of assets that I rightfully deserve. Fang Minhong's face instantly turned unsightly. After a long silence, he finally spoke up with a hypocritical expression. Father knows you've always resented this family. How about this? Father will give you 5 million RMB first. so you can go abroad to clear your mind. 5 million RMB, haha. Fang Minhong, the reason you have what you have today is entirely thanks to the capital from my maternal family and the dowry that my mother brought along. Even this very life of yours was exchanged by my mother using her own life. Now you're taking my mother's money to support a homewrecker and this illegitimate son in the house, bought by my mother. Yet you plan to use a mere 5 million RMB to casually dismiss her biological son. Where is your sense of shame? Fang Minhong was hit right where it hurt, turning his embarrassment into rage. Exactly how much do you want? Say it straight. I had already come prepared, taking out a document from my pocket. I calmly read out a series of numbers and stock shares. You're crazy. That's absolutely impossible. You're trying to drain half of the Fang Group's entire assets. Don't agree to it, then that's fine too. I've already planted a bomb outside the villa. Either agree to pay the money and sign this agreement, or today all of us will die right here together. Choose. Fang Shu, you're a total madman. That's right. I am exactly a madman. Fang Minhong's face turned completely pale, his breathing rapid, staring intently at me, seemingly trying to gauge whether my words were true or false. In the end, the fear of death overrode everything. Fine, are you satisfied now? Hurry up and take that bomb away. Rest assured there is no bomb. Just tricking you. After all, back then you tricked my mother into marriage just like that. No, Fang Minhong only realized just now that he had been played. He was so angry he could barely breathe, pointing his finger at me for a long time without uttering a single word. The thing I wanted was now in my hands, so I naturally didn't bother to look at him even a bit more. Right as I turned around intending to go upstairs, today your older brother is bringing his girlfriend home for dinner. Before I didn't care how much of a scene you caused, but this time, you absolutely must finish this meal, properly. For me, his girlfriend is Shen Boyu. What the Shen family's status is in Jingbei, you know very well yourself. We can't afford to offend them. Drop that rebellious attitude of yours immediately, and don't cause any trouble for me. My footsteps going upstairs suddenly paused, my back instantly stiffening. Shen Boyu. Today she actually took the identity of Fang Zun's girlfriend to visit the house. Before I could think too much about it, the next second, the door opened. Fang Zun held Shen Boyu's hand, smiling radiantly as he walked in. Dad, Mom, we're back. My father and stepmother had just recovered their composure, instantly switching to a warm, welcoming smile as they stepped forward to greet them, showering them with questions. Fang Zun was incredibly respectful toward Shen Boyu, his attitude full of flattery. Only Shen Boyu, when her gaze fell upon me, clearly knit her brows. It seemed that only at this exact moment did she find out that I turned out to be Fang Zun's younger brother. During the meal, Fang Zun and Shen Boyu naturally sat on one side. I sat alone across from them throughout the entire dinner. I witnessed with my own eyes Shen Boyu meticulously picking up food for Fang Zun and even peeling shrimp for him. Seeing this scene, the stepmother smiled brightly like a flower. Fang Zun, how did you and Miss Shen meet? Tell Mom a bit about it. It was at a charity gala. I saw a stray cat stuck in a tree, so I wanted to go help it. As a result, I struggled for a while and couldn't climb up. It was Boyu who helped. After that, she asked for my contact information. When he spoke, he even showed a bit of the bashfulness of a pure guy. Seeing that I couldn't help but sneer. Fang Zun had hated small animals since childhood. As a kid, he had even tortured a cat to death. How could he ever actively go save a cat? That family of four was having dinner, chatting happily and harmoniously. I was in no mood to act out this happy family drama with them, so I stood straight up and walked out into the garden. But not long after, Fang Zun also followed me outside. Fang Shu out here catching the breeze all by yourself. Huh. Actually, I know why you're acting like this. People in our circle have already told me everything about what happened between you and Boyu over the past 3 years. With my back to him, my body stiffened slightly, but I didn't turn my head back at all. To be completely honest, when I first found out, I was indeed a bit worried. After all that charm of yours that captivates both men and women, my little brother, who wouldn't catch feelings for that? It's a real pity for this pretty face. Your mother couldn't compete with my mother, and you can't compete with me either. The past 3 years were just charity from me to you. Now that the real owner is back, a knockoff like you should just beat it. I slowly turned around. In my eyes there was no rage or pain like what Fang Zun had anticipated, but only ridicule. Charity, huh, Fang Zun? Have you been abroad for so long that you forgot what kind of trash you are? A bastard child, relying on your mother acting as a third wheel just to step foot through the door. A pathetic worm who has to use cheap tricks and schemes just to keep a woman, yet you're worthy of talking about charity in front of me. Your mother picked up the trash that my mother threw away, and you're picking up the woman that I don't want. You two, mother and son, really share the same blood. specializing in picking up other people's leftovers. The smile on Fang Zun's face instantly froze, his complexion turning from blue to white. Did you think you won? She's just an old toy that I Fang Shu got tired of playing with and threw away. A woman I don't want anymore whom you picked up, and are even flaunting around like some treasure. Having said that, I turned around intending to leave. But the exact moment I turned away, Fang Zun behind me suddenly let out a miserable shriek, his forehead slamming straight into the edge of a decorative rock alcove in the garden. Blood instantly gushed out. Almost at the same time, Shen Boyu, Fang Minhong, and Lang Wan rushed out from the living room. Fang Zun collapsed onto the ground, clutching his forehead, which was streaming with blood. Dad, Mom, don't blame him. It's just that I couldn't stand steadily. Lang Wan immediately rushed over and tightly hugged her son. Zunner, why are you so foolish? He treated you like this. And you're still speaking up for him. Minhong's face turned pale with rage, pointing his finger at me, unable to contain his anger. Fang Shu, what did you do to your brother again? I stood rooted to the spot, coldly watching this meticulously orchestrated frame-up drama. My gaze first swept across my furious father, then the hypocritical stepmother, and finally stopped on Shen Boyu. I saw her kneeling beside Fang Zun, carefully checking his wound, and then lifting her head to look at me with resentment. Very well. This woman didn't believe me either. It makes sense, though. Fang Zun is the one in her heart. What reason does she have to believe me? I thought for a moment, then stepped closer, line by line. Under everyone's shocked gazes, I lifted a heavy porcelain flower pot next to me. Without a single shred of hesitation, I aimed straight at the forehead that had just been scratched on Fang Zun, and smashed it down hard. After a heavy, fleshy thud, an even more miserable shriek from Fang Zun echoed. I let go, tossing the shattered flower pot away. Listen up. Just now it wasn't me, but now it definitely is. Everyone was completely dumbfounded, including Shen Boyu. I brushed off the remaining porcelain shards in my hands, turning around intending to leave. However, my wrist was suddenly gripped tightly by an immense force. Shen Boyu held me in a death grip, her face so dark it looked ready to drip ink. Chairman Fang, your son has done this kind of thing. If you don't discipline him properly, I'm afraid I won't let it slide either. Fang Minhong, both feeling distressed for Fang Zun and terrified of Shen Boyu's power, hurriedly bowed. President Shen, rest assured, I will definitely teach this unfilial son who doesn't know the height of the sky or depth of the earth a lesson. He immediately called the bodyguards over. Capture this unfilial son for me and drag him to the ancestral hall to kneel there. How dare you? I struggled, my fierce gaze glaring straight at my father. However, Fang Minhong looked toward Shen Boyu, asking her flatteringly, making him kneel in the ancestral hall to repent does this punishment. Suffice, Shen Boyu helped Fang Zun, whose forehead was bleeding non-stop. Get up, her gaze swept over me coldly. The words she uttered cruel to the absolute extreme. Too light. I just saw a horsewhip hanging in the study. That's not just for decoration, is it? Having said that, she supported Fang Zun and left without even turning her head back. I felt like I was struck by lightning, looking at her departing back in absolute disbelief. She actually hinted for Fang Minhong to whip me with a horsewhip. Fang Minhong immediately barked at the bodyguards. Did you hear that? Give him 30 lashes first, then drag him to the ancestral hall to kneel. Without my permission, he is not allowed to get up. I struggled with all my might but was pinned down tightly by the bodyguards. They were too numerous and strong, and I wasn't calm enough, even though my mouth said I didn't care. In reality, I cared to death. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let a couple of words from Fang Zun ignite my rage. I was forcefully dragged to the main hall. When I woke up again, I found myself lying on the bed in my private room, my entire body aching as if crushed to pieces. Nanny Zhang was secretly applying medicine to my wounds. Wiping away her tears, she advised in a low voice, "Young master, just admit your mistake to the master. Why must you suffer like this?" I weakly shook my head. Admit my mistake. Admitting mistakes to this family means nothing less than being gnawed by them until not even my bones are left. I paused for a moment, forcing out a smile that looked uglier than crying. It was just a beating, that's all. Fang Zun was also taught a lesson by me, not a loss. I can take it. Having said that, I reached under my pillow with great difficulty, took out a bank card, and stuffed it into Nanny Zhang's hand. Take this, Nanny. Seeing this, Nanny Zhang was startled and hurriedly pushed it away. Young master, how can I take your money? Just take it. This is the money I prepared early on. I am about to go abroad, and I probably won't be coming back. You're an old-timer my mother brought from her family. If you stay here now, they won't show you any respect. This money is enough for you to enjoy your retirement. Listen to me. Quit your job and leave this place. Nanny Zhang looked at the thin card in her hand, then looked back at me, lying on the bed covered in injuries, yet still worried about her. She couldn't hold it back anymore, her eyes filling with tears. With a thud, she was about to kneel down. I hurriedly stopped her. I kinda want to drink some. The lotus root pork rib soup that you make. All right, all right. I'll go make it right now. Going right now. Nanny Jang hurriedly wiped her tears, stood up, and rushed into the kitchen. The room fell back into silence. I looked up at the ceiling, gorgeously decorated yet freezing cold, and slowly closed my eyes. In the days that followed, I stayed in my room the entire time recovering from my injuries. Enduring the intense pain, I slowly packed all of my luggage. Even the items that Shen Boyu had gifted me were all sorted out. She didn't love me, but she was very generous with her spending. All these things combined were worth nearly 100 million. At first, I planned to just throw them straight away, but on second thought, I still made a phone call to the owner of the high-end club that I frequently visited. I heard that the club was holding a charity auction recently, so I said I also had a lot of items I wanted to put up for auction. The other party quickly responded, saying there was an event tonight and telling me to come over. That night, I brought those few large boxes to the clubhouse. After handing the items over to the person in charge of the auction, the moment I turned around, it truly was a case of enemies crossing paths on a narrow road. 732. I saw Shen Boyu and Fang Zun walking together. Seeing Shen Boyu and Fang Zun walking together, Shen Boyu was leaning close to Fang Zun's side. When Fang Zun saw me, a flash of smugness and provocation crossed his eyes. I subconsciously clenched my fists, but quickly let go. Today I had proper business to do. There was no need to waste my emotions on them. Just as I sat down, the light suddenly went completely dark. The host stepped onto the stage, enthusiastically announcing that before the auction started, there would be a 3-minute kissing session, inviting all the couples present to enjoy themselves to the fullest. The spotlight swept randomly across the dark hall, illuminating each pair of men and women who were embracing and kissing. I happened to see not far away Shen Boyu smiling as she wrapped her arms around Fang Zun's neck. Fang Zun lowered his head to look at her, and then leaned down to kiss her. However, before my heart could even ache, the next second, a heavy decorative iron light fixture above their heads fell. The hanging rack began to loosen, and immediately after it plunged straight down toward Fang Zun's spot. Shen Boyu reacted. With extreme speed, she pushed Fang Zun away hard, but the edge of the light rack still grazed Fang Zun. Seeing this, her face drastically changed. She immediately dragged Fang Zun in a panic straight to the parking lot to rush him to the hospital. As for me, I was also hit by another falling light rack, hurting so much that I nearly passed out, and was also taken to the hospital by a kind passerby. This accident came so unexpectedly, and ended just as quickly. The ones who got caught up in it were only the few of us. I had just finished resting at home, and in the blink of an eye I had to stay in the hospital again. However, not long after I was settled into the ward, Shen Boyu barged straight in. Her face was terrifyingly dark, her gaze looking at me as if she wanted to swallow me alive. Fang Shu, I've already checked the security cameras. It was you who bribed the clubhouse staff to intentionally loosen the light rack, wanting to crush Fang Zun to death. Have you gone completely crazy? Shen Boyu was furious. Aside from you, who else could harbor such immense malice toward Fang Zun? Fang Shu, I really underestimated you. I didn't do it, so I didn't do it. Shen Boyu, you have no right to slander me. Slander, it seems, if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't willingly speak the truth. While speaking, she took out her phone and made a call. Hey, the young master of the Fang family, Fang Shu, is suspected of intentional assault. Send someone over to lock him up for a few days, so he can clear his head a bit. My eyes widened. My face filled with absolute disbelief. I couldn't dare believe my own ears anymore. She actually used her connections to throw me into a prison cell. Then what was the point of me being beaten to this extent? Very soon after, people in uniforms arrived at the ward. Disregarding the doctor's protests and my injuries, they forcefully took me away. The days that followed were nothing short of a living hell on earth for me. In that place, I had to endure all kinds of torture. The cellmates seemed to have received special instructions. They found every possible way to humiliate and abuse me, punching and kicking me relentlessly. A few days later, when I was released, my body barely looked human anymore. Covered in wounds and barely breathing. The only thing that helped me muster the strength to crawl out of that hell was a text message just received on my phone. My visa had finally been approved. I caught a taxi back to the villa, preparing to grab my luggage to make it to the airport in time. But the moment I stepped inside, I crossed paths with someone who had just returned from a trip around the world after finding out everything. My best friend Shen Luoheng rushed over in a hurry, seeing me. Shen Luoheng had a face full of guilt, constantly apologizing. Fang Shu, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. In the beginning, I just didn't like that guy. My cousin's ex-boyfriend, so I intentionally egged you on to get close to her. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. I didn't know. Her white moonlight was actually Fang Zun. If I had known, I wouldn't have let you go even if it killed me. I don't blame you. Everything is in the past now. I've already let it go. I plan to go abroad, and maybe I won't ever come back in the future. Shen Luoheng was stunned and hurriedly spoke up. Fang Shu, don't leave. Stay in the country. I will protect you. As long as I have food to eat, there will definitely be a share for you. There is nothing left here for me to miss anymore. Before leaving, I turned back to take one last look. This villa contained all the memories of my childhood, yet now it was occupied by my father and his mistress, a home that the illegitimate son had shamelessly moved into. Took out a canister of gasoline that I had prepared long ago. Ignoring the servants trying to stop me, I expressionlessly splashed gasoline everywhere, then set it on fire. The flames soared high into the sky, devouring everything belonging to the past. Then, carrying my luggage, I finally turned my back decisively and left. Shen Luoheng drove me to the airport. All along the way, he kept constantly apologizing, saying he wanted to gift me his entire garage of luxury cars to make it up to me. I just shook my head gently, resting my head against the car window. Why worry about not meeting someone new, even if I don't rely on talent, just relying on this face of mine, as long as I want to? The people in the future will only be better than the ones before. That's right, top-tier handsome guy. Our MC can get whatever he wants. Arriving at the airport, Shen Luoheng hugged me tightly, reluctant to let go, still constantly uttering apologies. I understood his personality. I didn't blame him, this wasn't his fault. I gently patted his back, then let go, waving goodbye in a cool manner, turning around to walk toward the security gate. Shen Luoheng watched intently as my figure disappeared at the end of the tunnel. Not knowing how long he stood in silence, he finally gathered the courage to call Shen Boyu. The phone rang for a long time before someone picked up. Cousin? Shen Luoheng's voice sank. I know you like Fang Zun, but after all, you and Fang Shu have been together for 3 years. Now he's gone, and he's never coming back again. Could it be that even coming to see him off is something you refuse to do? Fang Shu, he's gone taking the earliest flight to go abroad. Already. He said he's never coming back again. Are you satisfied now, cousin? Shen Luoheng nearly roared, after which he angrily hung up the phone. The receiver emitted rapid, busy tones. Shen Boyu still maintained her posture, answering the phone standing rooted to the spot. Gone abroad. Never coming back. These words pieced together like a heavy blow to her brain. She knit her brows slightly, tossing the phone back onto the desk, trying to refocus her mind back onto the extremely important merger file right in front of her. However, those dense words and numbers at this moment looked like a swarm of chaotic ants, crawling miserably right before her eyes. Her gaze couldn't focus, her mind constantly replaying the scene of when I was taken into the detention center, the way my eyes looked at her. She felt incredibly frustrated, loosening her collar, and stood up to walk over to the giant floor-to-ceiling window. Not knowing how long she stared out, she suddenly grabbed her car keys and strode out of the office. As the elevator was going down, she called the private number of the person in charge of the airport. Check. Which outbound flight Fang Shu took. Immediately after, she sped like crazy all the way to the airport. The airport manager was already waiting there in fear. Handing over the information, just looked up. Sir, Mr. Fang took a flight, AF-108 to Paris. The plane took off 20 minutes ago. Shen Boyu's footsteps ground to a halt. She lifted her head, looking toward the giant flight information display board. At the status column for flight AF-108, 3 cold green words clearly displayed. Departed. Just like that. Stood frozen in the middle of the bustling, crowded hall. In her ears were announcements in various languages, the sound of suitcase wheels rolling on the floor, and the laughter of passengers. At this exact moment, the phone in her pocket vibrated once again. On the screen, the name Fang Zun popped up. She took a deep breath and answered it. Boyu, my head is still a bit dizzy. Are you still busy right now? I miss you. If it were the past, she would have immediately dropped everything to get back to him. But right now she looked out the window, where the plane had just disappeared into the night sky, that speck of light. After a long silence, in the end she still replied, I'm coming right over. When she arrived at the hospital's VIP ward, Fang Zun was leaning against the headboard, his face a bit pale. A joyful smile instantly appeared on his face. Shen Boyu sat by the bed listening to Fang Zun chat, but her mind was a bit distracted. Fang Zun sensitively noticed her unusual silence, carefully and cautiously probing, Boyu, are you worried about Fang Shu? I heard Dad say he went abroad, but he threw such an outrageous tantrum this time, so going abroad to clear his mind is good too. Once he thinks things through, who knows, maybe he'll come back. Don't mention him anymore. Hearing this, Fang Zun immediately nodded, a smile appearing on his face again. But what he didn't know was that, after he fell asleep, Shen Boyu took out her phone again. Her finger paused on the screen for a moment, and in the end she still opened the chat with her assistant, typing in a line of text. Keep an eye on Fang Shu's movements abroad. Compile a report for me every week. However, The exact moment her fingertip was about to hit the send button, her movement froze. What on earth am I doing? He's just an entertainer, that's all. Is he worth me caring this much? Her finger moved slightly, quickly deleting the text message she had just drafted. Life after reuniting with Fang Zun, in the eyes of outsiders, was perfect and enviable. A perfect match in social status, a talented man and a beautiful woman. Shen Boyu also fulfilled her duties, as a girlfriend, eating together, and appearing at necessary social occasions. But only Shen Boyu herself knew how dry and tasteless this seemingly perfect life actually was. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in her office, while approving documents, she would suddenly daze off, recalling the days of the past. I would often sneak up while she was at her busiest, hug her from behind, and intentionally blow air by her ear, disrupting all her working pace. When sitting on her private, the extremely important merger file in front of her, she would subconsciously look toward that cramped restroom. Many times she would carry me out wrapped in a blanket, crawling right before her eyes. But these ill-timed memories kept appearing like ghosts, making her endlessly frustrated. She took Fang Zun to our old restaurant, a private restaurant that needed to be booked months in advance. The dishes were still as exquisite as before, the ambiance still as elegant as always. Shen Boyu ate in silence, but unintentionally remembered how I always, while she wasn't paying attention, would quickly snatch the food she had just placed in her bowl, leaving absolutely nothing behind. And in the end would always use her hand to drink wine from her glass to soothe the spiciness. Then grandly declare, "What's yours is mine." That meal back then was always loud and chaotic, but full of life. As for this meal in front of her, the atmosphere was so quiet that only the faint clinking of bowls and chopsticks remained. The suffocation made her almost unable to breathe. At night, she habitually lay on the inner side of the bed. In a half-awake, half-asleep daze, her arm instinctively reached over to the side to hug him. The touch felt warm, but this body wasn't right. This temperature wasn't right, it didn't have that vibrant, hot feeling, and the scent wasn't right either. It didn't have that natural body fragrance. Even the faint breathing sound while sleeping wasn't right. I didn't sleep well at all. I would subconsciously fight for the blanket with her, and like a small animal seeking warmth, would fuzzily burrow into her embrace. Shen Boyu suddenly snapped her eyes open, a fierce feeling of repulsion surging in her heart. For the first time, she pushed Fang Zun away almost violently. She stood up and left the bed. Go to sleep. I suddenly remembered. There's an urgent file that needs to be processed. Having said that, she completely ignored Fang Zun's astonished gaze and walked straight into the study. Closing the door, she needed to be alone, needed to calm down, needed to expel the figure that was becoming increasingly vivid in her mind, out of her head. A week later, at an important business banquet, Shen Boyu and Fang Zun attended together. Everyone thought they were a match made in heaven, but Shen Boyu felt the atmosphere here was incredibly dull. During the banquet, a young master who found Fang Zun eyesore intentionally made things difficult for him. Fang Zun could only turn his head to look at Shen Boyu. If it were before, Shen Boyu would have found him lacking capability, naturally needing her to step up to save face. But at this moment, she subconsciously thought of me. If I were the one encountering this situation, I would definitely splash the wine glass in my hand straight into the opponent's face, then nonchalantly drop a line, "Sorry, my hand slipped." This sharp contrast startled her. Right at that moment, an elite guy who had a grudge against our MC, a son of a powerful family who was notorious for his toxic tongue, sauntered over to toast with wine. "I heard you and Fang Shu broke up. He went abroad to enjoy himself. What a pity. I also wanted to have a taste and see." Before his words even finished, Shen Boyu, without any warning, swung a slap straight across the opponent's face. The guy couldn't react in time, letting out a miserable shriek as he tumbled to the ground. Nosebleed instantly gushed out and the entire venue instantly went dead silent. Everyone was drop-dead shocked, looking at the unexpected scene that had just occurred. Shen Boyu looked at the guy wailing on the ground with a look of utter contempt. "What kind of trash do you think you are?" Having said that, she didn't bother to look at the guy on the ground ever again, nor at the shocked guests around. Leaving behind the words, "Watch your mouth," she then dragged Fang Zun, who was also stunned with fear, to leave. This was the first time in her life she had lost her composure in a public place, as important as this, and the reason was simply because of a malicious mention of me by someone else. On the way back home, the atmosphere inside the car was incredibly heavy. Fang Zun seemed to still be shaken. After a long silence, he cautiously dropped a hint to Boyu. "Today my mom called again to ask us when we plan to get married." Shen Boyu massaged her temples, her tone full of perfunctoriness. "The company has a few transnational mergers recently that are reaching a critical stage. Work is very busy, let's talk about it later." Late at night, Shen Boyu was alone in her study. She opened an encrypted photo album on her phone. Inside there was only a very short video from a gathering of friends a few years ago. Someone was cheering and telling me to sing. Seeing how enthusiastic everyone was, I couldn't really refuse, so I jumped onto the stage, grabbed the microphone, and sang a pop song with a cheerful beat. As for when she saved this video, even she herself had forgotten. Looking at the radiant, free, and easygoing figure on the screen, and then contrasting it with her current life that resembled a stagnant lake, Shen Boyu's heart at this moment felt as if it were being squeezed by an invisible hand, a suffocating pang of pain washing over her. She abruptly turned off the video, placing the phone face down on the desk, her chest heaving violently. Time flew by like a shuttle, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 3 years later. At the Capital International Airport, Shen Boyu had just finished a business trip for an important international cooperation project and returned. Fang Zun accompanied her as her fiancé. Their schedule was low-key. They took the VIP lane to avoid the hustle and bustle of regular passengers. However, the moment they stepped out of the lane, deafening waves of sound from outside crashed. In the arrival hall was packed with people. Countless young guys and girls held up glowing LED boards, fresh flowers, and posters, their mouths unceasingly and fanatically, shouting and chanting the exact same name, Fang Shu, Fang Shu, Fang Shu. The shouting was so loud it almost blew the roof off the airport. Many regular passengers stopped in their tracks one after another, curiously looking around and gossiping. Who is that? Such a huge crowd. You don't know Fang. So the top-tier megastar right now. He debuted 3 years ago, and is hailed as a modern-day Pan and an actor of 1,000 faces. Shen Boyu's footsteps upon hearing my name ground to a halt uncontrollably. She subconsciously searched for the sound and followed the gaze of the crowd, finally stopping across from the lane on a picture hanging on a giant pillar, a massive advertisement billboard. She stood rooted to the spot, her gaze locked tightly onto that giant poster. All around her, the noise seemed to vanish in an instant. The world only had that radiant, star-like figure left. At this time, Fang Zun also saw the advertisement billboard. He subconsciously tightened his grip on Shen Boyu's hand. Boyu, that's Fang Shu. I also heard early on that he went abroad to develop these past few years and seemingly became a star. Instead of being a proper young master, he ran off to a place like the entertainment industry. His tone carried an intentional belittlement. But Shen Boyu didn't even seem to notice. It wasn't that she didn't know. Throughout the past 3 years, even though she had never actively looked for me, news about me still constantly reached her hands through all kinds of channels. She knew I hit the peak right after my debut, knew every movie I starred in was critically acclaimed, and a box office hit, and knew how many prestigious awards I had won. She had even secretly had her assistant buy up all of my movie tickets, collect my posters, and items related to the products I endorsed, hiding them in the most secret drawer in her study. She just had never allowed herself to look for me. In the very next moment, her gaze pierced through the bustling crowd, locking onto the figure who was currently under strict escort by bodyguards and assistants, stepping out from the regular exit. With just one look, she felt that my real self was even more radiant than on the poster. Right when Shen Boyu was staring blankly at me amidst the sea of people, a woman suddenly smiled radiantly, squeezed through the crowd, holding a large bouquet of highly prominent Ecuadorian roses, and stepped forward to welcome me. That was Shang Xinqi, the heiress of the Shang family. Shang Xinqi naturally took the hand luggage from my hand, lowered her head close to my ear to whisper something, and I was teased by her into laughing out loud, witnessing this scene. Shen Boyu's face instantly became twisted. The surrounding atmospheric pressure abruptly plummeted, making even Fang Zun beside her unable to stop himself from shuddering. They were almost pushed along by the crowd to the parking lot. As luck would have it, Shen Boyu's car happened to be parked right near my team's vehicle, a highly prominent stretch Lincoln. Shen Boyu saw Shang Xinqi attentively opening the car door for me. Right at the moment, I bent down preparing to get into the car, as if sensing something. I suddenly turned my head back and looked straight into Shen Boyu's eyes. The next second, I politely nodded in greeting to Shen Boyu. Why are you here? What the hell does it have to do with me? At the same time, Shen Boyu's heart leapt right up to her throat. She could even clearly hear every single thud of the blood rushing through her veins. But the next second, everything went dead silent. She saw the total strangeness and distance in my eyes. I only glanced faintly toward where she was standing. That gaze seemed as if it were just responding to a random passerby who happened to recognize me, or some fan. Afterward, I nonchalantly withdrew my gaze, bent over and sat inside the car, without pausing for even a single second from beginning to end. Shang Xinqi had also noticed Shen Boyu by now. She closed the car door, glanced toward Shen Boyu through the car window, and smirked with deep meaning. Then the black stretch Lincoln sped away, disappearing at the exit of the airport parking lot. Witnessing this scene, Shen Boyu was like nailed to the spot. Fang Zun beside her called her name a few times, but she didn't seem to hear anything. In her ears there was only a buzzing sound in her head, repeating a single voice, "He saw me." but he ignored me. After returning to the hotel suite, Shen Boyu threw herself heavily onto the sofa. That night she stayed up all night, the airport scene replaying endlessly in her head, the way he looked at her like looking at a passerby, without the slightest importance, and also the intimate interaction between him and Shang Xinqi. Furthermore, even Shang Xinqi's final provocative action, every single detail was like poisoned needles, piercing through her flesh. Only until this moment did she suddenly realize that she couldn't stand me looking at her with that kind of gaze, and could stand even less, having another woman beside me. The more she thought, the more frustrated she became. She suddenly stood up, walked over to the wine cabinet, poured a glass of strong liquor, tilted her head back and drained it completely. Right after that, she grabbed her phone and called her assistant. Investigate immediately for me Fang Shu's specific address in Jingbei and his entire schedule for the upcoming week. Also that Shang Xinqi woman, what has she been doing over the past 3 years? What on earth is her relationship with Fang Shu? I want the most detailed report, as fast as possible. After giving the order, she paced back and forth in the room, waiting for the news. Every minute and second that ticked away felt agonizingly long. A few hours later, the assistant called back. The detailed report of the investigation results, from my address to my schedule, and all the information about Shang Xinqi were clearly listed. This made Shen Boyu's heart sink endlessly. Shang Xinqi came from a prestigious family, and she herself had outstanding capabilities. Ever since I went abroad 3 years ago, this young lady had almost moved. Her entire work focus over to Europe, taking up permanent residence in Paris. Using her status as an investor, she secretly paved the way for me, utilizing her connections and resources to help me quickly secure a solid foothold in the fashion and film industries. Throughout these past 3 years, she had almost appeared in the capacity of a protector, always accompanying me. The relationship between the two of us was very close, and everyone knew we were best friends. But as for whether it would develop into romance, there were still many outside rumors. Best friends. Shen Boyu gave a cold laugh and hung up the phone. Between a man and a woman, how could there be a purely platonic friendship? Shang Xinqi's hidden motives could be seen through at a single glance. As for you, Fang Shu, you actually allowed that kind of person to get close to you. At this moment, a fierce hostility, along with an unprecedented sense of crisis, enveloped the heart of Shen Boyu. For the first time toward the name Shang Xinqi, she developed disgust and jealousy. She really wanted to meet me once, really wanted to directly ask me about my relationship with Shang Xinqi. Fortunately, a week later, the opportunity arrived. The assistant reported that I would attend an after-party following the runway show of a luxury fashion brand. Shen Boyu immediately used her connections to obtain an invitation. The party was held at a private manor with a long history. Upon stepping inside, Shen Boyu quickly spotted my figure. At this time, I was chatting with several internationally famous directors and producers, switching between fluent French and English naturally. Shen Boyu held a wine glass standing in the crowd, staring intently at me. She waited patiently until she saw that I seemed a bit tired, walking alone toward the balcony that led to the garden to take a break. Right at this moment, she quietly followed behind. The night breeze on the balcony was a bit chilly. I was leaning against the railing looking out at the distant lake. Shen Boyu walked up behind me and took a deep breath, suppressing the agitation in her heart as she spoke. She subconsciously adopted an interrogative tone. What is going on between you and Shang Xinqi? I wasn't surprised at all by her appearance, but I didn't even bother to turn my head around. Well, if it isn't President Shen. Long time no see, but what goes on between me and anyone else doesn't seem to require a report to you. The words President Shen, along with this distant attitude, made Shen Boyu feel suffocated. She took a step closer, grabbing my arm. Fang Shu, you've been away for 3 years, and you don't even have basic judgment and the ability to read people anymore. Don't you know what kind of person Shang Xinqi is? She plays around more wildly than I ever did. What can she possibly give you? Hearing this, I turned around to look at Shen Boyu with a condescending gaze. President Shen, you don't seem to have the right to talk about others. You say Xinqi plays around wildly. What a coincidence. I used to be a notorious playboy in the Jingbei social circle myself. The two of us are actually a match made in heaven. Furthermore, Xinqi has never denied her feelings for me, and she respects all my choices and wishes. Unlike a certain someone, who clearly had someone else in her heart from beginning to end, yet insisted on using a marriage alliance as a shield, wasting 3 whole years of someone else's youth. Shen Boyu, who do you think is worse? These words were like a resounding slap. These words felt exactly like a resounding slap, striking heavily across Shen Boyu's face. Her face instantly became unsightly. She opened her mouth trying to speak, but found herself tongue-tied and speechless. Right at this moment, a voice cut in. I wondered why I couldn't find you anywhere. Turns out you were getting pestered by someone irrelevant. Shang Xinqi strode over with her long legs. She very naturally reached out to link her arm through mine. Long time no see, President Shen. What were you chatting about with my boyfriend? Looking at this atmosphere, it doesn't seem very pleasant. Hearing the word boyfriend, Shin Boyu's head buzzed. Her pupils shrank as she abruptly stared intently at me, not looking away for a second. She was begging me to deny it, even if it was just a frown. However, I only tilted my head slightly, leaning toward Shang Xinqi, silently acknowledging her words, without even bothering to glance at Shen Boyu, even once. Shang Xinqi took in all of Shen Boyu's reactions, unable to stop herself from chuckling. I heard President Shen and our Fang Shu have some past history, but that's all in the past. Fang Shu is currently being well taken care of by me. No need for you, President Shen, to trouble yourself with worrying. She paused for a moment, her gaze sweeping meaningfully past the empty space behind Shen Boyu. By the way, where is Mr. Fang Zun? Why didn't you bring him along for the fun, or did you come out alone this time to cheat? Mr. Fang Zun is really so pitiful. Having said that, she didn't give Shen Boyu any more chance to speak, but led me away. Shen Boyu stood rooted to the spot, staring blankly as the two of us walked away side by side, her hands hanging by her sides, clenched tightly into fists. This was the first time she tasted the feeling of what is called bone-deep pain. After returning from the party, the atmospheric pressure around Shen Boyu was terrifyingly low. Fang Zun keenly noticed her abnormality, so he became even more submissive and cautious. He solicitously asked after her, trying to soothe the frustration in her heart. That evening, he brought a glass of hot milk and stepped into Shen Boyu's room. Boyu, you've been very tired lately, haven't you? Do you want me to massage your head for you? Remember when we first met? One time, in order to save a kitten stuck in a tree, I almost fell off the ladder. After you helped me, we got together. Back then, I also massaged you like this. Very comfortable. He tried to use their past events to jog her memory. However, as Shen Boyu listened to his words, her brows knitted even tighter. Without knowing why, in her mind there suddenly flashed an image from a very long time ago, the private whisper of an old servant from the Fang family, saying that Fang Zun, since childhood, seemingly disliked small animals and even secretly killed a neighbor's cat. At this moment, Shen Boyu remembered the sarcastic remarks I used to throw at Fang Zun. Before, she had never paid attention, even feeling that I was maliciously defaming him. However, at this moment, she suddenly realized something. So she nonchalantly pushed Fang Zun's hand away. No need. I want to be alone in peace. Fang Zun had no choice, nor did he dare to say anything more, and could only obediently back out. A few days later, Shen Boyu's highly capable assistant, while organizing a batch of old files transferred from back home, accidentally discovered a highly confidential investigation report hidden for many years, a copy regarding the suspicious points in the fatal accident of my mother back then. The report showed the accident wasn't merely an unintended mishap, but rather carried suspicions of human manipulation, where the biggest beneficiary was precisely the person who quickly climbed to a high position and took over the Fang Corporation, Fang Minhong. Almost at the same time, the informant that Shen Boyu had planted inside the Fang Corporation also sent an urgent update. The Fang family's corporation had long been a mere empty shell. In recent years, Fang Minhong had embezzled a massive amount of public funds through complex transactions overseas to launder the assets. Moreover, the mother-son duo Fang Zun and Ling Wan not only knew about it, but were also deeply involved. The Fang family was now drowning in debt, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. What caught Shen Boyu off guard like a bolt from the blue, even more, was a secret recording that the informant sent right after. In the recording, Fang Zun was talking on the phone with a guy he called his friend. The content was, back then I intentionally fell off that broken ladder, faking saving the cat, just to get Shen Boyu to notice me. That kind of woman only falls for these tricks. The time in the garden was also self-directed by me. I knew Shen Boyu was about to walk out, so I timed it perfectly to throw myself in. And that light fixture at the club too? I paid a worker to loosen it up. Originally it was meant to hit harder. Who knew it would only bleed a tiny bit? But the result was pretty much the same anyway. What the hell is that Fang Shu anyway? To even think about competing with me. In Shen Boyu's heart, from beginning to end, there's only been me. I just used a few cheap tricks and she fell for it completely. And even got rid of Fang Shu into that place, locking him up for several days. Until this very moment, Shen Boyu finally discovered the truth. The person she always considered her white moonlight, from beginning to end, was just an elaborate scam, meticulously orchestrated. And even the pain she had inflicted on me, it was all built upon these lies. She was like a total fool, spun around like a whistle by that mother and son, right in the palm of their hands. Shen Boyu staggered and fell to her knees on the floor, her face as pale as a sheet of paper. She immediately ordered someone to bring Fang Zun to her room. When Shen Boyu threw those ironclad pieces of evidence right in front of Fang Zun, at first Fang Zun still tried to make excuses, but in the face of the undeniable evidence and Shen Boyu's overwhelming dominance, Ultimately, his psychological defense line completely collapsed. He slumped to the floor and confessed to everything. Boyu, it's because I love you too much. I was driven insane by jealousy. I just wanted you to feel worse for me. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Give me one more chance. Shen Boyu stood tall, looking down, watching this distorted and ugly state of Fang Zun. In her heart, there wasn't the slightest bit of pity. She only felt disgusted. At the same time, my face flashed in her mind, subconsciously. Even during the most pathetic and painful moments, I had never wagged my tail to beg like Fang Zun. At this moment, she completely understood. The person who made her heart flutter wasn't a fake Fang Zun, an illusion of a white moonlight built on lies, but a living, genuine person who, despite being deeply hurt by her, had once given her his all, without holding back any sincerity and warmth. The responsibility and old feelings she held for Fang Zun were just lying to herself. After the truth came to light, Shen Boyu used lightning-fast methods to handle the aftermath. She ordered Fang Minhong to immediately return all the illegally seized assets while simultaneously using her connections to hand Fang Zun and the criminal evidence of the mother and son over to the authorities. She broke up decisively with Fang Zun, severing all ties, without a single shred of lingering attachment, without a single bit of entanglement. But after finishing everything, all she felt wasn't relief, but empty void. Fang Shu, I feel so miserable. Where are you? I want to see you. I want to get your forgiveness, even if it's just a 1 in a million shot. For the first time, she cast aside all her status and pride, standing and waiting downstairs at the villa her assistant had found. At 7 p.m., she was holding an exquisite paper bag in her hand. Inside was a pastry air-shipped from the old bakery I used to love the most, the signature sweet of the shop. She remembered that I liked sweets, especially during times when my mood was bad. Just taking a bite of something sweet would make the whole person feel more relieved. However, she waited in the car for the entire night, waiting until her eyes were completely bloodshot, waiting until her face became haggard and messy. Not until the sky just started to brighten did she see a familiar sports car driving over, stopping in front of the villa gates. I stepped down from the driver's seat, walked around the passenger side to open the door for Shang Xinqi. Shang Xinqi ruffled my hair. Don't know what she said that caused me to smile faintly. But this scene stabbed sharply into Shen Boyu's eyes, so she pushed open the car door and strode over. Fangshu, can we talk for a bit? Shang Xinqi turned her head and saw the person coming was Shen Boyu. Instantly frowning, President Shen, why are you here? We have nothing to talk about. Wait, Fangshu. Shen Boyu anxiously took a step forward frantically, pulling out her phone, wanting to show Fangshu those pieces of evidence. Listen to me. The things Fang Zun and his family did, I have investigated them all clearly. It was me who wrongly blamed you. The incident in the garden back then, the light fixture falling down, and also your mother's car accident. None of them were accidents. It was them. It was because I was stupid, because I was blind. I was tricked by them. But before she could finish, I raised my hand and directly cut her off. So what? Hearing this sentence, Shen Boyu instantly froze. The truth is out, so what, Shen Boyu? Did you think I would cry bitterly, run in front of you and say, you finally know, so that we can get back together? Shen Boyu, your apology, your regret, mean absolutely nothing to me. The damage has already been done. The humiliation of being discarded by you like trash. The bone-deep pain of having my wrist broken in the detention center. These things can't be made up for by just a single, weightless I was wrong from you, or by these so-called pieces of evidence, nor can they be wiped clean. As I spoke, my gaze rested on the exquisite paper bag in her hand. I gave a cold laugh. You still remember I like sweets from this place. It's really troublesome for you, President Shen, to even have it air-shipped from so far away. I lifted my eyes, looking straight into her suddenly pale face. Though, I've stopped liking sweets a long time ago. Too sickening. So sweet it's scary. Having said that, I didn't bother to glance at her even one more time, turning around to walk into the main gate with Shang Xinqi. The sound of the door closing rang out. The thick, wooden door completely blocked her line of sight. Shen Boyu stood rooted to the spot for a long time, while the paper bag holding the pastries in her hand seemed to become incredibly heavy. Inside the villa, I leaned my back against the cold door, then slowly slumped down to the floor. To say it didn't hurt would be a lie. There was still a faint ache in my chest. But mostly it was a sense of relief and exhaustion. Letting go turned out to be not as difficult as I thought. Shang Xinqi slumped down on the floor with me, then slowly pulled me into an embrace. Fangshu, I'm here with you. You still have me, everything is already in the past. You still have me, everything is already in the past. That's right, everything is already in the past. Outside the window, the rain grew heavier by the minute. Shen Boyu stood dazed like a soulless ghost in the downpour. She lifted her head to look up, knowing that window would never open for her again. In her eyes, there was only a dead silence. She knew she had lost it, and would never be able to get it back. After she returned home, For several consecutive days, Shen Boyu kept herself locked in her room, not seeing anyone, nor handling any work, only staring blankly at the sky outside the window. Those meaningless words of mine kept echoing endlessly in her ears. The way I looked at her like looking at a stranger kept lingering in her mind. She couldn't accept it. Simply couldn't accept the fact that I just kicked her out of my life like that. She couldn't accept the fact that there was another woman by my side. But the miserable failure of her first attempt to win me back, far from making her see reason, on the contrary, ignited a desire for possession deep within her bones. I am Shen Boyu. The things I want, I have never failed to get. It was true before and it's true now. I've realized it. You must come back to my side. An almost insane thought cropped up in her mind. She had to create an opportunity to force me to face her, to make me need her. She immediately called her trusted assistant. Use all resources to investigate Fang Shu clearly for me and see what his most important upcoming business collaboration project is. No matter what method is used, I must intervene. The assistant worked extremely efficiently, quickly responding. Fang Shu's team was currently with a world-class luxury brand with a century-long history, negotiating a global brand ambassador contract, which had now entered the final crucial stage. Hearing this, Shen Boyu's eyes lit up. She immediately used the name of the Shen Group to send an expression of interest to that brand's headquarters, while simultaneously proposing a collaboration plan that took a massive loss just for exposure. The condition was only one: postpone the signing with Fang Shu's representative. The strength and influence of the Shen Group were beyond question, especially in the Asian market. The brand's executives, in the face of such massive benefits, expectedly started to hesitate. The video signing ceremony, originally scheduled for tomorrow, was suddenly postponed, with a request for further evaluation. When the news reached my team, the atmosphere instantly became heavy. The agent frowned tightly, looking at me anxiously. At this time, I was standing in front of the mirror practicing, as those were lines for a movie scene I was about to participate in. Hearing that news, I was just speechless. It was expectedly Shen Boyu's style. She wanted to force me to bow my head. Shang Xinqi was lazily curled up on the sofa playing games. Hearing this, she immediately put her phone down, walked over to my side and said, "Don't worry, I'm here." Shen Boyu's hands haven't reached that far yet. When the online meeting resumed, on the big screen, in the meeting room at the brand's headquarters, there appeared the feeds of me, Shang Xinqi's team, and also Shen Boyu. The meeting started. The brand's CEO cautiously mentioned the Shen Group, having proposed a more strategic collaboration possibility. In his words, clear hesitation was revealed. Shen Boyu spoke up at the right time. The Shen Group is very optimistic about the development of your esteemed brand. I also believe that our collaboration will bring win-win results for both parties. As for the choice of brand ambassador, I think it needs to be considered more carefully to ensure that person's image fully aligns with the core values of the brand. Though she didn't say it directly, every spearhead was aimed straight at me, implying my seniority or image might not be enough to shoulder this heavy responsibility. The atmosphere of the meeting instantly dropped to freezing point. Right at this moment, Shang Xinqi's lazy voice cut in. "President Shen, long time no see. What's wrong? Is the domestic business not busy enough, or what, that you even have spare time to care about the brand ambassador of the European fashion world like this?" Saying that, she looked straight at the brand's CEO, her tone becoming powerful and serious. Charlie Fang Shu's image, his professionalism and market appeal are obvious to everyone. Our Shang family has always been one of the most important art sponsors of your esteemed brand. I personally also highly admire the philosophy of your esteemed brand. I believe that choosing Mr. Fang Shu as the global brand ambassador is a decision that couldn't be more correct. As for those irrelevant external interventions, she paused for a moment, her sharp gaze sweeping toward Shen Boyu on the other end of the screen. The business world has the rules of the business world. Don't bring those personal feelings and petty low-class tricks out here. The spotlight Fang Shu has today is based on his own strength and hard work. He doesn't need anyone to bestow opportunities on him, and much less needs to accept any threats attached to conditions. Shang Xinqi's words were like a thunderous slap, striking directly across Shen Boyu's face, while simultaneously shocking the brand's side. The background and influence of the Shang family in Europe went far beyond what the Shen Group could reach in a short time. Right after that, it was my turn to speak. I calmly presented my understanding of the century-old history of aesthetic craftsmanship, as well as the core spirit of the brand, while at the same time combining it with personal experience and future development directions. I put forward promotional ideas full of constructive depth. My professional and confident speech fully displayed the qualities and stature required of an international star. The brand's executives exchanged appreciative glances. The previous hesitation completely vanished. In the end, the brand's CEO made the decision right on the spot, and the official global brand ambassador contract was signed. Shen Boyu's screen went black. At first, she sat alone in her empty, cold office, listening to the hopeless, long dial tone in her ears, her hands clenching tightly into fists. That night, she screamed frantically at her subordinates who kept their heads down, not daring to breathe loudly. Why is that? He won't even give me a single chance to make amends. What Shang Xinchi can give. Is there anything I Shen Boyu can't give? Money, resources. Status, I can even give him much more than that. 10 times, 100 times more. What on earth does he want? The assistant looked at her almost insane state, hesitating for a long time before cautiously reminding her in a low voice, President Shen. Perhaps the thing Mr. Fang wanted has never been these external possessions. Hearing these words, Shen Boyu suddenly froze. Not these things. Then what does he want? For the first time, she began to actually think about this question, a question she had never thought deeply about. Is it trust without reservation? Is it a steadfast choice that never leaves? Or is it love? She thought over and over, but still couldn't understand. Just when Shen Boyu was still agonizingly thinking, a piece of news suddenly struck, instantly causing her to fall into a panic. The news flash in the F Mountain region of southern France. Due to prolonged heavy rain, severe flash floods and landslides have been triggered. Many villages and towns have lost contact, roads have been destroyed, and the situation is extremely critical. The roads were completely destroyed, and the situation was extremely critical. And the urgent information sent from her assistant showed that Mr. Fang was currently in that exact area. Reading down to the very last line, Shen Boyu's heart instantly stopped beating. I had been invited to participate in a public welfare shoot for the International Children's Fund, right near the town hardest hit by the natural disaster. Currently, the entire area had completely lost contact, with everyone's survival unknown. At that moment, Shen Boyu was hosting an important board of directors meeting regarding the group's 10-year strategy. The moment she heard her assistant report the news, she abruptly stood up from the chairperson's seat. She didn't even have time to leave an explanation. Under the astonished gazes of all the shareholders, she threw down the documents in her hand, turned around and dashed out of the meeting room. Immediately prepare the plane to go there at the fastest speed. Fly straight to the nearest airport that can still land. Contact all local rescue organizations. Hire the best rescue team. No matter how much money it costs, I will personally go. What group strategy? What business empire? Before the news that I might be in danger, everything became completely trivial. In her mind, there was only one single thought: find me. A few hours later, Shen Boyu brought along a professional mountain rescue team, highly experienced and hired at an exorbitant price. Taking advantage of a temporary break in the torrential rain, they made an emergency landing at a small airport that was still operational closest to the disaster area. The weather was extremely harsh, with thick dark clouds churning in the sky and the wind and rain howling. Shen Boyu didn't stop for a single second, switching to a helicopter prepared in advance to fly straight into the zone that lost contact. But the helicopter couldn't land directly, only able to hover in a relatively safe area. She ignored the crew's words of warning, being the first person to follow the rope and slide down to the muddy ground. The rescue team leader looked at the scene, swept away by the floodwaters before his eyes, the road full of landslides and fallen trees. Anjali, he tried to dissuade her, Miss Shen. The road conditions ahead are too dangerous. The rain is still ongoing. You can't go inside. Cut the crap. Shen Boyu with bloodshot eyes took the lead at the front. The floodwater submerged past her calves, freezing to the bone. Debris kept rolling down from the mountainside, and the gale seemed to want to knock people down. During an attempt to dodge a small landslide, a rolling rock suddenly smashed hard against the backpack containing vital rescue equipment on the back of her torso. Shen Boyu, without thinking instinctively, used her body to lunge forward to dodge. Even though she tried to dodge, she was still cut deeply by a sharp edge of the rock, a wound so deep that bone was visible. Miss, the team members gasped in horror, wanting to bandage it for her. But Shen Boyu dismissed it as a waste of time. She just tore a strip of cloth to wrap haphazardly over the wound, gritted her teeth, and continued to dash forward. After more than 10 hours of no food and no sleep, along with an almost suicidal search, they finally found me at a slightly elevated location that had been surrounded by floodwaters, inside a ruined classroom of an elementary school that had now become a deserted island. They found me. At this time, I was together with a few other teachers, reassuring dozens of frightened children. My hair was messy, my face pale, and the clothes on my body were dirty and stained. But I still maintained my composure, even softly telling stories to the children, trying to dispel the fear inside them. When Shen Boyu, covered in mud all over, with scattered bloodstains, stumbled and appeared at the classroom door, everyone was stunned, including me. The moment I lifted my head and saw her, my face clearly showed unbelievable shock. Our eyes met, and time seemed to freeze for a few seconds. Shenboyu looked at me standing there completely safe and sound. The heart that had been hanging in suspense for days and nights was finally able to cast off its heavy burden. She didn't care about the bone-deep pain in her arm, nor care about her own messy appearance, dashing forward, a few steps under everyone's astonished gazes, and suddenly pulled me tightly into her embrace, then kept repeating the words "thank goodness" over and over. "Thank goodness you're okay." I was held tightly by her, able to clearly feel her violent heartbeat and the trembling of her body. Right at that moment, I patted her back gently, after which I used force, but not too brutally, to push her away. "Thank you, President Shen, for disregarding danger to come to the rescue. I will remember this kindness." Shenboyu's arm suddenly felt empty. Looking at my calm face, the smile on her face instantly vanished. She stood rooted to the spot for a long time, not moving. Right at this moment, the sound of a helicopter landing rang out outside. Shang Xinqi brought along another rescue team and supplies, rushing over in a hurry. When she barged into the classroom, the first thing was to search for me. Seeing that I was still safe and sound, she clearly breathed a sigh of relief. After that, her gaze rested on Shenboyu. After seeing the injury on Shenboyu's body, her expression darkened, instantly becoming vigilant. Inside the temporary shelter that had been set up, the medical staff was helping Shenboyu clean and bandage the wound. The wound was very deep and needed stitches, but Shenboyu didn't seem to feel any pain at all. Her eyes kept following me while I was busy, not far away. She softly asked her assistant beside her, just now when he saw my injury, was there even the slightest bit of worry? The assistant looked at his boss, looking at that pale, yet stubborn profile, and then silently lowered his head. The answer was already all too clear. The relief work in the disaster area was like a huge boulder thrown into a calm lake, raising violent waves in everyone's heart. Shang Xinqi witnessed with her own eyes how Shenboyu, for the sake of saving me, could disregard her life to that extent. This made her feel a truly unprecedented threat. She realized that Shenboyu's feelings for me were much deeper than what she had imagined. She couldn't wait any longer, so when the relief work in the disaster area had basically stabilized, on the night before my team and I were about to return to the country, Shang Xinqi didn't make any grand or loud gestures, but chose a quiet moment at a small hillside near the temporary shelter, where one could gaze at the starry sky with only the two of us. The night wind was chilly. Shang Xinqi looked over to her side, watching me lifting my eyes to look at the starry sky. She took a deep breath, stepped closer to block my view of the sky. "Fang Shu, there's something I've thought about for a long time, and feel it's time to tell you. I know you probably always felt that when we were young, I was always going against you, like an annoying little tag-along. Actually, that was because I didn't know how to attract your attention. You were too radiant, just like a small sun, with many people always surrounding you. I could only use that clumsy method, so that at least you could remember that someone like me existed. Later, when growing up, I buried myself in bars all day. The bar thing was actually because when I saw you beside Shenboyu, my heart felt very miserable and I didn't know what to do. I could only use that method to numb myself, and also wanted you to see me to see that this Shang Xinqi isn't someone nobody wants. During those 3 years you went abroad, I immediately followed right after, for no other reason than because I like you. Since I was very young, I've already liked you." Hearing these words, I stayed silent for a long time. Over the past 3 years, every bit of kindness Shang Xinqi showed me, I kept them all in mind. She had accompanied me through the loneliness of a foreign land, guiding me when I was new to the industry, silently supporting me when my career hit rock bottom, staying up all night to take care of me when I was sick, respecting my every decision, and never putting pressure on me. At this moment, Shang Xinqi suddenly sat down and grabbed my hand. "Fang Shu, I know there's still a wound in your heart, and you haven't completely let go of the past. I'm not in a hurry. I can wait. I just want to ask, can you give me a chance, so that I, as your girlfriend, can officially and rightfully treat you well?" I looked at Shang Xinqi, the girl who grew up with me, since childhood, sharing every joy, sorrow, and anger, and also the woman who didn't abandon me during my darkest hours. I stayed silent for a very long time, so long that Shang Xinqi's heart almost dropped to the bottom of the abyss. Finally, I gave a slight nod, smiled, and said, "Since you've confessed to me, then I should agree." Hearing this, Shang Xinqi was instantly overjoyed. She emotionally threw her arms around me, holding me tightly. The news of the two of us officially dating, although not intentionally made public, was no longer a secret within our close circle of friends. However, when this news reached Shenboyu's ears, it became the final straw that broke the camel's back. At that time, she was in the hospital, treating the wound on her arm. Because of searching in the rain, the wound got infected, leading to a high fever, and she had to stay in the hospital for observation. When the assistant timidly reported this news to her, Shenboyu froze for a brief second, and right after that abruptly sat up from the hospital bed, ripping out the IV needle on the back of her hand. Next, she flipped over the medical cart beside the bed. Impossible, how could she? How dare she, Shang Xinqi? On what grounds does she think she can? Shen Boyu, disregarding the prevention of the doctors and the advice of her assistant, insisted on leaving the hospital, driving and speeding straight to my villa. She even forgot her arm was still wrapped in bandages, and forgot her high fever hadn't broken yet. In her mind, there was only one single insane thought: to find me and demand an explanation. The night was already late. She staggered, dashing to the front of the closed iron gates of the villa, using all her strength to pound on the cold iron bars, screaming my name with a hoarse voice. "Fang Shu, come out here!" "Tell me this isn't true. You can't treat me like this. I was wrong. I know my mistake now. Give me one more chance." Her insane actions quickly attracted the attention of security. Several large security guards tried to drag her away, but she desperately struggled, her mouth still endlessly calling my name. In the end, she was forcefully dragged away from the scene and shoved into her car. The curtains on the second floor of the villa swayed slightly. I stood behind the window, witnessing the ridiculous drama downstairs, looking at that woman who used to be so high and mighty, now being dragged away like a crazy person. My face remained expressionless. Afterward, I drew the curtains shut. The next day, I sat by the sun-drenched floor-to-ceiling window, reading a new movie script that had just been sent over, while Shang Xinqi sat cross-legged on the rug, handling work on her laptop, occasionally looking up at me. However, this warm atmosphere was suddenly interrupted by a news notification popping up on the tablet dashboard. The Fang Group, a well-known domestic enterprise, chairman of the board Fang Minhong, due to suspicion of embezzling a massive amount of public funds and tax evasion, has been officially approved for arrest. The stock price of the Fang family's group collapsed in an instant, declaring bankruptcy and asset liquidation. In-depth exposure. Behind the downfall of the Fang family, it is suspected that a mysterious source of capital launched a precise attack with a colossal sum of money. A series of shocking, bold headlines caught my eye. My fingers scrolling it on the screen paused for a moment, my gaze lingering on the image of Fang Minhong, surrounded by reporters on the news. That face, which used to be so arrogant back in the day, was now full of panic and misery. But on my face, there wasn't even the slightest ripple, just like looking at a complete stranger who had absolutely nothing to do with me. Shang Xinqi, seeing this, put her laptop down and walked over to my side, naturally leaning into my embrace. She didn't say anything, only using actions to declare that there was still someone by my side. In the following days, the news about the Fang family continued to spread wildly. Lang Wan tried to take some liquidated assets and finally flee abroad, but was caught red-handed at the airport by the police officers who were already waiting for her. As for Fang Zun, after losing his father's protection, and with the family bankrupt, he completely broke down under the consecutive shocks of his mother being imprisoned. He tried to go look for Shen Boyu, delusionally thinking she would remember old times and help out, but was coldly rejected by Shen Boyu's assistant, blocked under the group's headquarters building, and didn't even get to meet her. Not long after, the grapevine exploded with the news that Fang Zun, due to mental instability, had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital on the outskirts. I closed the news page, stood up and walked to the window, looking into the distance. Shang Xinqi rested her head on my shoulder. Everything is already in the past, Fang Shu. Yes, it's all in the past. Those resentments, along with the downfall of the Fang family, and the endings of him and Fang Zun, had completely vanished into thin air. This was also the moment I truly waved goodbye to the past. The annual International Film Festival Awards ceremony became the center of attention for the entire world. Stars shone brilliantly on the red carpet, linking arms with Shang Xinqi. I calmly walked down the red carpet. In the penthouse office of the Shen Group, Shen Boyu didn't turn on the lights, sitting alone in front of the giant floor-to-ceiling window in the darkness. There was only the fluorescent light emitting from the TV screen. The screen was live broadcasting the major event of the film festival. When the lens zoomed in for a close-up of me and Shang Xinqi, her pupils fiercely contracted. The results of the awards ceremony were announced. Thanks to an indie art film that deeply portrayed the complexity of human nature, I successfully won the title of Best Lead Actor. When my name was called out, the entire venue stood up to applaud under the stage lights. I slowly walked up onto the stage, and from the hands of the award presenter, received that heavy trophy. I gave a brief acceptance speech upon receiving the award, thanking the director and the film crew, after which my gaze turned toward Shang Xinqi below the stage. Finally, I want to specially thank one person, my lover. Xinqi, thank you for always being by my side, giving me support and strength. Half the credit for this trophy belongs to you. The camera instantly panned toward Shang Xinqi. She stood up and blew a kiss to me up on the stage. Shen Boyu suddenly turned off the TV in the darkness, gasping heavily for breath. No, I can't just stand by and watch like this. I must do something. The after-party of the awards ceremony was held at the official hotel of the film festival until late into the night. Only then were Shang Xinqi and I, surrounded by assistants and bodyguards, able to head down to the underground parking lot. But just as we walked over to the side of the car, a dark figure holding a gun rushed out from behind a pillar. Blocking right in front of us, it was Shen Boyu. She stared intently at me. "Let's talk just 5 minutes. Just 3 minutes is enough. Give me one more chance. I'm begging you for the last time. Without you, I really can't go on living anymore." Seeing this scene, Shang Xinqi immediately rushed out. "Shen Boyu, look at yourself and see what you look like right now. Wake up. Fang Shu is with me now and he's very happy. Please stop coming to disturb his life." "Happy? On what grounds can you bring him happiness? What do you even know about him? Do you know that he's afraid of the cold in the winter when sleeping and likes to hog the blanket? Do you know that he can't eat spicy food, but just loves to eat it anyway, having to drink ice water every single time to ease the spice? Do you know that he enough?" I spoke up, cutting her off. "Shen Boyu, don't bring up things of the past anymore. It ended between us a long time ago." "It hasn't ended. How could it possibly be over?" Shen Boyu excitedly wanted to grab my arm, but was blocked by Shang Xinqi. While we were disputing, no one noticed that at the entrance of the parking lot, black car, seemingly due to a drunk driver or the vehicle losing control, suddenly accelerated violently, swerving erratically toward where we were standing, and then frantically smashed right into us. "Watch out!" Shang Xinqi was the first to react. However, there was someone even faster than her. Before anyone could snap back to reality, Shen Boyu used all her strength to abruptly give me a hard push, me who was standing on the very outside, shoving me far away without any hesitation. As for herself, due to the recoil force, she was completely exposed to the front of the out-of-control car. Following a loud, dull thud, Shen Boyu's body was like a broken kite, sent flying high from the impact. The emergency room lights stayed on for an entire night. Shang Xinqi and I kept watch on the long bench out in the hallway. When the sky was just starting to brighten, the emergency room door finally opened. The exhausted doctor walked out to inform us that Shen Boyu's injuries were extremely severe, with multiple fractures and internal bleeding. But after going all out to treat her, she had temporarily passed the critical state and was now transferred to the ICU for observation. However, she hadn't completely escaped the danger zone yet and needed close monitoring. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my heart remained heavy. After keeping watch at the ICU for another full day and night, Shen Boyu's vital signs gradually stabilized, and she was moved to a regular ward. Shang Xinqi came with me to visit her. Shen Boyu lay on the stark white hospital bed, her body hooked up to all kinds of IV tubes, her face pale and thin to the point of gauntness. But the moment she saw me walk in, her eyes instantly lit up. With difficulty, she weakly called out my name. Shang Xinqi patted my shoulder, signaling that she would wait for me outside, then tactfully closed the door behind her. I walked over to the bedside and sat down on the chair. "The doctor said you've temporarily pulled through." Then Shen Boyu greedily stared at my face, with difficulty lifting the hand that wasn't hooked to the IV, wanting to touch me. But seeing the distance in my eyes, that hand weakly dropped back down. "I'm sorry, Fang Shu." She began to choke up as she poured her heart out, from initially being blinded by Fang Zun, to later realizing her own feelings, but refusing to admit it out of pride and stubbornness, all the way to the endless pain and regret after losing me. She apologized over and over, expressing her love again and again, even throwing away all dignity and pride, humbly begging without stopping. "I know my sins are unforgivable, but please give me one more chance to make amends, to let me use the rest of my life to compensate you. Without you, living is no different from being dead." I listened quietly without interrupting her at all, until she talked herself into exhaustion, and her voice grew faint. I finally spoke up slowly. "Shen Boyu, thank you for saving me this time. I will remember this life-saving favor." Inside Shen Boyu's eyes, a spark of hope ignited. A glimmer of hope sparked in Shen Boyu's eyes, but my next words completely extinguished that tiny bit of hope. But love is not gratitude, and even less about remorse. Between us, it ended a long time ago. From the moment you, for the sake of Fang Zun, used your connections to throw me into the detention center, to let me suffer all kinds of torture, from every single time you chose to believe him, without a shred of hesitation hurting me, then things between us had already ended long ago. Shen Boyu, let's just stop here. Having said that, I stood up, not bothering to look at her even one more time, turning around to walk toward the ward door. Shang Xinqi was standing right there. I walked over to her side, naturally holding her hand, and then left the ward without turning my head back. Shen Boyu lay on the hospital bed, looking toward the empty doorway, watching my heartless departing figure, her tears falling uncontrollably. Time flew by and another year of spring and autumn passed. This year my career reached its absolute peak. I took on a film, an epic movie directed by a top international director playing the role of a character steadfast, with faith amidst the flames of war. The performance was exquisite and deeply moving. at the place dubbed as the most glorious award ceremony in the film industry. When the name of the best lead actor was called out, the entire venue went wild. I calmly stood up. Shang Xinqi beside me was so moved that her eyes turned red, hugging me tightly. Before I walked toward that stage, currently being watched by the whole world, under the stage lights, I cherished the trophy that symbolized the highest and most noble glory in the film industry, delivering my acceptance speech. Thank you to the film crew. Thank you to my family and friends who have always supported me. Finally, I looked toward the woman below the stage. I want to dedicate this glory to my fiancé, Shang Xinqi. It was you who made me believe that love can be this wonderful, helping me gain more courage to become a better version of myself. Miss Shang, for the rest of our lives, please guide me well. The camera instantly zoomed in on Shang Xinqi. She had stood up long ago, facing me up on the stage, making an I love you hand sign. A week later, a simple yet cozy wedding at a private estate was held, inviting only the closest family and friends. The lawn was full of sunshine, fresh flowers, and a white veil. I wore a suit tailored by my close designer friend, which was both simple and elegant, linking arms with Shang Xinqi as we walked down the path littered with flower petals. Our wedding invitation was also delivered into the hands of a few people from the past. In the penthouse office of the Shen Group, Shen Boyu stood in front of that giant floor-to-ceiling glass window, looking down at the city that was still as prosperous as before, beneath her feet. She looked significantly thinner compared to a year ago. On the desk, an exquisite wedding invitation was lying silently. On the day of the wedding, she didn't show up. She only went to the room where she and I once had countless complications, which was that exact office. At this time, her phone screen suddenly lit up. It was a message from an unknown number, with no text content, only a photo. In the photo, I was wearing a suit, standing under the brilliant sunshine, smiling at the camera, looking incredibly happy. A few seconds later, another message came. There was only one sentence, Shen Boyu, I forgive you. I have also let go of myself. Take care, Shen Boyu. She stared intently at the photo and those words, her heart feeling as if it had been dealt a heavy blow by something. Trembling, she reached out her hand to caress my happy, smiling face on the screen. Her tears finally couldn't be held back anymore, and poured out uncontrollably, large drops falling and splashing onto the phone screen. She cried and smiled at the same time, looking like a crazy person. In the end, she pressed the phone tightly, so tightly against her warm chest.